This building in Swansea's Victoria Park is known as the Patti Pavilion. It was the winter garden of Adelina Patti who in 1918 presented the Winter Garden building from her Craig-y-North estate to the town of Swansea. Adelina Patti was an Italian 19th-century opera singer, earning huge fees at the height of her career in the music capitals of Europe and America. She first sang in public as a child in 1851, and gave her last performance before an audience in 1914. Along with her near contemporaries, Patti remains one of the most famous sopranos in history, owing to the purity and beauty of her lyrical voice and the unmatched quality of her bel canto technique. The composer Giuseppe Verdi, writing in 1877, described her as being perhaps the finest singer who had ever lived and a stupendous artist. Verdi's admiration for Patti's talent was shared by numerous music critics and social commentators of her era. She was born Adela Juana Maria Patti, in Madrid, the youngest child of tenor Salvatore Patti and soprano Caterina Barilli. Her Italian parents were working in Spain at the time of her birth. Because her father came from Sicily, Patti was born a subject of the King of the Two Sicilies. On the 24th of November 1859, at the age of 16, Adelina Patti made her operatic debut in the title role of Donizetti's Lucia di Lammermoor at the Academy of Music, New York. On the 24th of August 1860, she and Emma Albani were soloists in the world premiere of Charles Sabatiers' cantata in Montreal, which was performed in honor of the visit of the Prince of Wales. In 1861, at the age of 18, she was invited to Covent Garden, playing the role of Amina in Bellini's La Sonnambula. She had such remarkable success at Covent Garden that season, she bought a house in Clapham and, using London as a base, went on to conquer the European continent, performing Amina in Paris and Vienna in subsequent years with equal success. During an 1862 American tour, she sang John Howard Home Sweet Home at the White House for President Abraham Lincoln and wife, Mary Todd Lincoln. The Lincolns were mourning the death of their son Willie, who had died of typhoid. They were moved to tears. The Lincolns requested an encore of the song. From then on, the song would become associated with Adelina Patti, and she performed it many times as a bonus item at the end of recitals and concerts. Patti's career was one of success after success. She sang in England, the United States, and far afield in mainland Europe, including Russia and South America. During the 1860s, Patti's voice was said to be of bird-like purity with a flexibility, which was ideal for such parts as Zerlina, Lucia, and Amina, but, as Verdi noted in 1878, her lower notes gained fullness and beauty when she grew older. Patti turned into a conservative singer in the final phase of her operatic and concert career. She knew what suited her older voice. Her recital programs during the 1890s featured an array of familiar, often sentimental pieces, which were sure to appeal to her adoring fans. In the 1870s and 80s, Patti had been a more enterprising singer, proving to be an effective actress in those lyric roles that required the summoning forth of deep emotions, such as Gilda in Rigoletto, Leonora in Illinois Trovatore, the title part in Semramide, Zerlina in Don Giovanni and Violetta in La Traviata. She also had been prepared to tackle quite dramatic parts in operas like O Africaine, Les Huguenots, and even Aida. Many years earlier, Patti had experienced an amusing encounter in Paris with the bel canto opera composer Rossini, who was a staunch upholder of traditional Italian singing values. Her contract stipulated that her name be top-billed and printed larger than any other name in the cast. Patti enjoyed the trappings of fame and wealth. She invested wisely large sums of money, and she saw out her days amid luxurious surroundings. In 1893, Patti created the title role of Gabriella in a now-forgotten opera by Emilio Pizzi at its world premiere in Boston. Patti had commissioned Pizzi to write the opera for her. 10 years later, she undertook one final singing tour of the United States. However, it turned out to be a critical, financial and personal failure, owing to the deterioration of her voice through age and wear and tear. From then on she restricted herself to the occasional concert here or there, or to private performances mounted at a little theatre she had built in her impressive residence, Craig-y-Nos Castle in Wales. She last sang in public on the 24th of October 1914, taking part in a Red Cross concert at London's Royal Albert Hall, that had been organised to aid victims of World War I. The first recordings of her voice were made in 1890 on phonograph cylinders for Thomas Marshall in New York. Neither the recorded title nor their number are known and the recordings are lost. In 1905 and 1906 at her Welsh home Craig-y-Nos estate she made more than 30 disc gramophone recordings of songs and operatic arias and a spoken voice recording to her third husband. By this time she was in her 60s, with her voice well past its prime after a busy operatic career stretching all the way back to 1859. However, the purity of her tone and the smoothness of her legato line remained uniquely impressive, compensating to some extent for the weakening of her breath control. Her records display a lively singing personality, strong chest voice and a mellow timbre. It was said her discs have a charm and musicality that give us a hint of why, at her peak, she commanded $5,000 a night. Her records were produced by the Gramophone and Typewriter Company, a forerunner of EMI Records, and were issued in the United States by the Victor Talking Machine Company. Patti's piano accompanist, Landon Ronald, wrote of his first recording session with her. When the little gramophone trumpet gave forth the beautiful tones, she went into ecstasies. She threw kisses into the trumpet and kept on saying, "Ah, my lord! Now I understand why I am Patti. Oh yes! What a voice! What an artist! I understand everything." Her enthusiasm was so naive and genuine that the fact that she was praising her own voice seemed to us all to be right and proper. Patti wed 3 times, first, in 1868, in 1886, and in 1899. She had a love for billiards and became a reputable player, making guest appearances at many major billiard events for exhibition matches and fancy shot displays. In her retirement, Patti, now officially a baroness, settled in the Swansea Valley in South Wales, where she purchased Craig-y-Nos Castle. There she had a billiard table installed, and her own private theatre, a miniature version of the one at Bayreuth, and made her own gramophone recordings. She funded Craig-y-Nos railway station on the Neath and Brecon Railway. She died at Craig-y-Nos and 8 months later was buried at the Père Lachaise cemetery in Paris to be close to her father and favourite composer, Rossini, in accordance with the wishes in her will. Adelina Patti had a warm, crystalline, and very agile high soprano voice of perfect equality, and her vocal range was wide, from low C to high F. Critic Rodolfo Saletti said, her voice was a technical marvel. The staccatos were marvels of accuracy, even in the trickiest intervals. Her legato was impressively smooth and pure. She connects the voice from note to note, phrase to phrase, lifting and gliding with an exceptional virtuosity. Her chromatic scale was deliciously sweet, and her trill was wonderful and solid. During her lifetime, Adelina Patti performed many concerts for a wide range of charities.